Hi, welcome to Relax and Breathe. I'm Pompe Strater-Vidal, and today we have as our guest Naomi Richards, who's a UK life coach and parenting author of two books. Her latest book is called Being Me and Loving It. Welcome, Naomi.
Thanks for having me.
And can you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself for people that, this is the first time they've met you and a little bit about your work and kind of the story behind your work?
Sure. I'm a mum. I'm a mum to two boys. And I've been working as a life coach for, 12 years. I started off as a life coach for children, and the reason I wanted to be was that I've always enjoyed working with children and giving them kind of creative ideas, creative tips of how they can be happier. In my teens, I used to work as a coach on summer camps, and it was always me that the children would come up to and say, Naomi, I've got a problem, can you help me? And it's part of me that I really enjoy doing that. So when I became a mum for the first time, I wanted to work for myself, and what was really important for me was that I had my business that I could run around my children. I grew up with my mother didn't work while me and my siblings were growing up, and I really feel like I reaped the benefits of that, and I wanted that for my children too. So I set up the business, and as I say, it's been going really well for 12 years. I spend most of my time working one-to-one with children, primarily between the ages of 6 and 12, and they come to me with all kinds of issues from self-esteem, confidence, issues at school, issues at home, with siblings, negative beliefs, etc. And what I do is I give them the confidence to make positive changes in their life. And I empower them and, get to see that actually they can make changes if they are unhappy. And what happens is after one session or maybe two, the child will feel stronger and will have actually implemented some of the ideas that we've talked about.
That's so great. And that must be wonderful for their parents because since, this summit is about become the calm in the chaos, and there's nothing more chaotic than an unhappy child in your home.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Parents often will try and help their children, but they try and it's not working, or their child won't talk to them, and so they kind of have this moody, possibly moody child who won't speak to them, maybe anxious, keeping the worry inside, and that does that produces stress. Or alternatively, it creates a much more angrier child, and frustrated because when we do have a problem, we don't know what to do with it. We will lash out at people much more easily.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to invite coaches like yourself onto the summit this time to help people with, I consider it mindful parenting. I consider that whenever you're paying attention to yourself, your own process, your child's process with awareness, that's what I consider to be mindful parenting. And I think that it's just a huge, huge stress in people's lives when they're raising children, when they don't have the tools that they need to communicate with them and to kind of formulate and understand what's going on with them.
Yeah, yeah, I agree.
And then to give children those tools is so great so that you're empowering them instead of like helicoptering around, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, my children grew up in the era when that phrase was coined of the helicopter parent, where you're kind of hovering over them, trying to kind of do damage control, which really just
Mm.
creates the impression for your children that the world is a scary place and they're helpless.
Yeah, and what we really need to be doing is we need to be setting them free and allowing them visions for themselves, for them to learn. That's the kind of growth that they need to be having in order to develop to the adult that they need to become.
Right. And I know you focus a lot of that on that in your work, empowering children.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to be able to help children have a voice, to be able to stand up and be able to share their opinions, share their thoughts, be able to, put their hand up in class, to make good choices as well. And as well as that, understand the world around them. Life isn't life isn't easy, and making sure that they have the tools so that they are more resilient. They can deal with the knockbacks and see the knockbacks as an opportunity to learn from them, and be able to still feel positive and go, okay, so that happened. What am I going to do about it?
Right. That's so wonderful. It must be really satisfying to work with other kids, besides your own children, and see them implement those changes. Because one thing about kids is that if you give them something they can use and the support to implement it, they can change so fast because they're so young.
Absolutely. Kids want to be happy. And, one session, there are children that have had one session with me and they've left going, oh my goodness, I didn't expect this, but now I know what I need to do. And actually, I feel relieved that I have somebody who's not associated with the family that I can talk to, and I can offload what I'm thinking, how I feel, and there's no judgment. I just have somebody that's going to listen, that's going to be supportive, but not only that, somebody who's going to come up with lots of ideas of how I'm going to be happier and how I can resolve whatever difficulty it is I have.
Yeah, and I think that's so important. And especially, it gives them a place where they feel safe talking about whatever is going on with them. Sometimes they may be protecting their parent, or they don't want to stress out their parents, so they try to figure it out themselves, and then they get into a mess. So I think it's good for them to have a resource sometimes outside the parental unit, the team, as you like to call it.
Yeah, definitely. And sometimes the problem is about mum and dad.
True.
And you can't resolve the problem with mum and dad with mum and dad. So you need that impartial person who's going to say, hold on a second. So when mum nags you to come off the laptop, blah, 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 and you're shouting back at her, what would you like to happen instead? So if mum's going to be nice and she's going to ask you, how are you going to respond?
Right. And there you go. That's like a great way, a tip to deal with chaos. It's because of the shouting matches over technology are big now. Technology is, I mean, gosh, that's a big, challenging problem. I know 2-year-olds that are attached to their parents' iPhones and iPads.
Yeah, it's pretty worrying. We need to get back to the status of less screen time and more face-to-face communication time. For
Yeah.
sure.
Do you find that in the work that you do with parents and children that you're sometimes kids just need more social skills, or parents need more social skills because they're spending so much time online that they're losing that opportunity to learn that?
Sometimes, yes. I think when I'm feeding back, obviously with the child's permission, the session that we've had to the parents, sometimes parents forget or they haven't done something for a certain time. Like a parent recently, I said to her, you know what, I think your son could really benefit with some one-to-one time. And she said, oh, okay, well, I haven't done that for a long time. And I said, it doesn't really matter how old your child is, they still need you, and you still need to talk to them, and you need to have that connection with them. And, I can see your child is craving that.
No, I'm really glad that you brought that up because I think that that's really important. I just drove my 23-year-old son to the airport the other day. It was inconvenient for me, but for me it was like, oh boy, I have a whole hour where we'll be in the car and we can talk. And he talked to me about all kinds of things that otherwise I would not have had the opportunity to hear any of that. So it was great.
Yeah. I sometimes think that some parents feel it's more of an inconvenience. Um, if they have to stop what they're doing to spend time with their child, especially when their child wants their attention right now, but actually sometimes the benefits are huge. I think one of the important things that I've been teaching my children is spontaneity. We have to learn how to go with the flow. And, if it rains and we're going to go to the park, we're not going to the park because it rains. Or we're going to change what we're wearing and then go to the park. So we have to create these children that are much more adaptive and can go, okay, so I can't go to the park, let's do something, what should we do now? Or, coming home from school and say, don't take your coat off, we're going out somewhere. And just teaching them that sometimes we don't always have to have plans and we can just make decisions on the spot.
Oh, that's a great tip. Thank you. All right. So, Naomi, let's talk a little bit about your new book, Being Me and Loving It.
It's a unique book. It's made up of 29 stories, and each story addresses a different issue that a child may be facing. There are stories around self-esteem, body confidence. There's also stories on bullying, peer pressure, social media, and there's quite a few on now. And what they look, the way they feel, the way that they dress. We are 150 and there are also discussion points as well, and for the child and explore it.
That's exciting, and you must be really excited to have your book coming out.
Yeah, I really am. It's taken a while to come to fruition, but what about it is it's different. There are so many ways that you can use it. You don't have to read the stories, you can just use the activities or vice versa. And it can be used with a group of children or it can be just used with your child. So I like the versatility.
And are these all things that you've learned in your work with children and then raising your own children that you're sharing in the book?
Yes, definitely. I generally use case studies of children that I've worked with and I've adapted them into stories, or I've used tools that I've used in my sessions. I have probably hundreds and hundreds of tools and different things that I can suggest to children in order to make a situation better. And they've been successful, so why not pass those on?
And then what particular advice do you offer parents around social media? Because I know that that's a big problem these days.
It is, and I think it's about starting young early and starting to talk to your children about the dangers of social media. Never putting, saying who they are, their date of birth, where they live. Not talking to anybody that they don't know. And I think it's a parent's responsibility to make sure that their privacy settings are right as well. And I think a lot of parents don't really understand how much they can protect their child from what they're seeing, and protect them from, the kind of the level of people getting to them that they don't know. Maybe adults posing as children, but also the dangers of people that they do know as well, because there's a lot of bullying that goes on online, and what do they do? And one of the stories addresses that. What do you do when your child is being bullied online? You want them to be able to come and say, look, this is what's happening. So I think it's again about open communication, but I also think it's about educating young too.
Yeah, because I know for myself, when I was raising my children in the dark ages of the internet, because they're in their 20s, but they were always like 10 steps ahead of me. And so I think a lot of parents you know, are unaware of what's going on with their children. I have a young girl helping me, and she was talking to me about being in high school and being cyberbullied with setting up fake accounts in her name on Facebook and things like that. And so I just think that the reason I wanted to bring it up was just so that people would have awareness around it, because that can create a lot of chaos in your home and you don't even know where it's coming from.
I think the major problem is that children are spending so much time online, and they're also trickily taking their phones to bed and are online till the very wee hours. So, and I think that's the problem. It's about role modeling as well your use of the internet. And there are rules. At so and so time, the phones go in a certain place. It's just important for the children to have their sleep too. But I also think it's really important that children research what's out there. There are lots of social media platforms that parents don't know about.
Right.
And I think they need to educate themselves about the different types. It's not just Facebook and Twitter and Messenger.
Snapchat.
Snapchat. Exactly. There are lots, and they're coming out all the time. So we need to be on top of what our children are using.
Yeah, I think that's so important because I remember when my youngest son was in high school, he's 23, I couldn't figure out why his homework took so long. I was so proud of myself. The computer that he was at was, I would walk by it and see him and he was online. And his brother came over one day and said, Mom, he's instant messaging across the bottom of the screen. And and then, so I think you're right. It's like you always really have to be cognizant and pay attention to that, and especially the thing of sleeping with their computers in their bed or their phone in their bed. They can watch movies in their bed, and even you can turn off the access to the internet and they can get on somebody else's internet.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that's kind of what the teenage years are for, but I think it's something to be aware of, that sometimes when you're experiencing this chaos, it can be coming from that source.
Yeah, yeah.
And so do you have tips like that in your first book as well? We haven't talked about your first book very much, so could you talk a little bit
No,
about that?
my first book's now 4 years old, and that came from a slightly different place. I wanted to teach parents how to be their child's coach. I also wanted to pass on the tools and strategies I use in my coaching sessions so that they could use them with their children as well.
And what kind of feedback have you gotten about that book?
Positive. I mean, 37 Amazon reviews.
I know.
And people are buying it, and I hope that people will use both the parents talking and being me and loving it together, because they're so different, but yet they complement each other. They're dealing with the stuff that our children are going through right now, and but both are written in a very easy to read way and very easy to use way with your children.
That's great. So they're conversational. So there's something that, they're practical and they're everyday, that things that people can use right away. They don't have to struggle with understanding concepts of psychology to work with it.
Yeah, absolutely. They're pretty simple to understand and comprehend.
Oh, that's good. Well, can you talk a little bit now before we end about that free gift that you're offering people that are listening to this and what they can find? I know you have a website and I know you have more things on the internet that they can access.
Yeah. My gift is one of my ebooks. I have three main ebooks. One is making the transition from primary school to secondary school, in other words, from first school to secondary school. One which is 50 ways to build up your child's self-esteem, and 50 ways to help your child develop healthy friendships. And you can just choose which ebook you want, and I will email it over to you, no problem. But yeah, they're part of the offerings that I have on my website. I also have other tools and products that can help with self-esteem, and also getting families to work together as teams.
Yeah, and that's a huge thing, getting a family to work together as a team. That is really, really important. I know that, having raised kids myself. And everyone, so many people now have blended families too, as well.
Yeah, and that's always having to revisit the rules to make sure that everybody's happy with the rules, and getting children to understand that everybody has a responsibility, and have to do their part in order for the team to function well, and to be a winning team, and we all want to be on winning teams.
And do you feel that children respond well to that concept of being on the team?
Yeah, I think the particular product, the contribution is is not kind of necessarily chore based, and it's developing life skills as well. So that helping other people within your team, your family, whether that's sharing or noticing that somebody else needs a bit of help, or getting understanding that everybody has to have a role, and they need to be a part of that. It's it's taking things to the next level, really, and I guess empowering your child and saying, you know what, I trust you to be responsible, and actually, you know what, in order for us to all leave the house at 8:30 in the morning, you need to make your bed, and you need to make sure you have your breakfast and put it in the dishwasher, because you know what, if you don't, we aren't going to leave on time, and so therefore you need to help. And I think as children are growing up, we want them to take more responsibility for themselves, to be able to stand on their own 2 feet. And that's why I think it's important to encourage them to be part of the team. Because for us, anyway, as parents, we don't want to be running after them, picking things off the floor and shouting at them. And I think they need to understand when we work together as a team, communication is much better and everybody gets on much better too.
Yeah, I like that concept and I like that analogy.
Mm.
I know that these days the morning rush has gotten even more pressured for parents around the world, because I've spoken to, now you're my third parenting coach, one in the U.S. and one in Australia, and it's all the same thing. Getting out the door in the morning is one of the biggest challenges that families face.
Yeah, yeah. Unless you're going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, it's not going to happen.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today on Relax and Breathe. I'm really happy to have you, and thank you for your gifts. And I wish you lots of success with your new book. I
Thank you.
know that people are watching this in July, but your book just launched 2 weeks ago, right?
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah.
And
So I
hopefully,
yeah, so,
hopefully it'll still be going strong then.
yeah. So I hope when people see this, being me and loving it is a huge success for you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for
All
having me.
right. Well, take care and goodbye for now.